Welcome to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily, the podcast for dog lovers who want to better understand and support their four-legged friends. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and today we're talking about something that might surprise you, why daily dog walks aren't always the best thing for your dog. My guest is Niki French, dog trainer, author, and creator of #Don'tWalkYourDogDay. Niki's book, Stop Walking Your Dog, challenges the idea that every dog needs a daily walk, and she's on a mission to help pet parents find alternative ways to meet their dog's needs. In this episode, we dive into why traditional walks can sometimes do more harm than good, what to do instead, and how pet parents of sensitive, nervous, or anxious dogs can feel less isolated. Whether you're rethinking your daily walks or just curious about a fresh approach to enrichment, this episode is packed with useful insights. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's get started. Welcome back to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode of the Yappy Hour today. Even more exciting that we've got the lovely Niki from Pup Talk joining me today. Niki is a dog trainer, author, podcaster herself, focused on helping dogs that struggle in the outside world. Niki is an advocate for alternative ways to meet a dog's needs beyond traditional walks. She's the creator of #Don'tWalkYourDogDay, which we're going to be chatting about in today's episode, which is all about encouraging owners or pet parents to rethink how they support their dogs. So I'm so excited to have Niki with us today. Niki, welcome to the Yappy Hour. How are you?
I'm really good. Really good. Yeah, as you say, I've done a few podcasts of my own, and it's so much more relaxing being on the other side. So thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. So you're a host to yourself of your own podcast, which we'll be chatting about. But normally you're the one in the, doing the interviewing, and now it's sort of roles reversed. I'm sure you've been guest on other podcasts as well, so it's nice to be in the other seat. But no, it's great to have you with us today. Thank you for taking the time. I'm so excited to dive in. We've got lots to cover off today. So for those, Niki, who may not know you yet, which I find hard to believe, let me just have a little segue here, because 3 different guests that I've interviewed have all said you must get Niki on the Yappy Hour. So I had Andrew Howe, and then Sarah Jones, a friend of yours, and then Danny from Tug Enough. They all said, right, you need to get Niki on. So I was like, right, I already had my sign anyway that I had to. You're on my list. But now the universe was telling me to reach out, and that's what I did. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, Pup Talk, and what inspired your training journey, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. Oh, that's so special. Do you know, I've met so many incredible people in this industry. So a little bit of history of how I got into this. I mean, I've only been a dog trainer for 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a complete career change for me. So I was animal mad as a kid. Like, I was feral, barefooted, climbing trees. I thought I could tame wild squirrels. I was born in Yorkshire, and some family friends had a livestock farm in Yorkshire, and they had working sheepdogs, and summer holidays were just idyllic. Like, there'd always be a new batch of puppies to play with, and I'd be playing with the sheepdogs when they weren't working, and like it was just a dream childhood. And then fast forward 30 years, and I've like got this corporate life. How did that happen?
I know the feeling. Yeah,
I just didn't. I don't know. Then I didn't really think working with dogs. Other than as a kid, I thought I'll be a vet. And then I found about the less pleasant side of being a vet, and I thought, well, I don't want to do that. So I didn't even think it was an option to work with animals. There wasn't, I didn't think I could go off and be a behaviourist then. So I got a proper job, and then fast forward to, gosh, where are we now? 2014, I had a bicycle accident. I was knocked off my bike. Had a little bit of a brain injury, nothing massive, but I had short-term memory issues. And it's hard to explain. It kind of, I
Was
had
it in
this.
that epiphany moment, or?
It did come, but I used to sit in board meetings and I'd be fine and I'd be doing this, that, and the other, and I traveled all over the world, and it was all, it was kind of quite exciting, quite fun. I enjoyed it. And then over about 3 years after the bike accident, I just kind of crumbled a bit. That's all I can kind of describe it as. I just wasn't the same resilient person that I was. So it was a little bit
Wow.
of a like, but there was no light bulb. There was no kind of like, I just remember panic of, I can't keep doing this. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I'd had 4 cats because I couldn't even have a dog because I worked long hours. I had
Yeah.
2 moggies and then 2 Siamese because I thought, what's the most
Oh,
dog-like cat
lovely.
I can have? And I had a chance conversation with a friend and a friend of hers, and she was a chef, and she said, I'm thinking about quitting at my job as a chef. I'm going to get a dog, and I think I might become a dog trainer. That was my light bulb moment. I was like, well, of course that's
Wow.
what I'm going to do. Like, it was just as
Yeah.
clear as day. So I resigned 2 days later. That was
Oh
Christmas
my God.
2018. I know, a woman of action. And in March 2019, I set up my business. So it was a light bulb,
Wow.
but it took three years to find that light bulb.
Sometimes it does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Got to
yeah.
wait for it all to align.
Yeah, and it was like, I as soon as those words were uttered, I've never had a second's doubt that was what I was
Oh,
supposed to
wow.
be doing at this. And I
Amazing.
never have, in all that time. So I started off doing some dog walking while I was training to become a dog
As you do.
trainer.
Yeah.
I wanted to get my hands on as many different dogs as I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I've always been keen on rescue dogs, and I was very keen to work with dogs and provide dog walks for the dogs that couldn't go on pack walks or
Yes.
that
Yeah.
couldn't go to
Yeah.
doggy daycare. So I didn't realize I was niching, but I kind of was very early on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and actually some of my clients, had quite dog and people reactive dogs. And
Mm.
with the owner's consent, those dog walks often didn't involve a walk at all. I would
Yeah.
go round to their house, and sometimes the clients would be working from home, and I would still go round to the house and give the dogs an hour of relationship building, of games,
Yeah.
of all of that kind of stuff
Enrichment.
that I
Yeah.
still do today. But it started off with, well, I was hired to be a dog walker, and then I'd talk to them and say, well, actually, they're really struggling on the walk. Can I do this instead? So it was a
Oh, wow.
wonderful learning ground for me. So I felt like I learned an awful lot very quickly. And yet I still feel I know nothing. So I'm still very humble in that way.
The same.
It was like rescues, rehomes, nervous dogs, all of that
Mm.
was sort of what I started off doing. And that's really how Pup Talk came about. My local business is,
Love the name. Love
yeah,
the
I
name as
wanted
well.
something that covered everything. My local business is Twickenham Dog Services. From a search engine
Yes.
point of view, that works
Saw
quite well
that.
because I live in
Yeah.
Twickenham. But Pup Talk is
It's
just
nice.
broad enough to get people talking about dogs. So I can, and I wanted to
Mm.
cover all sorts of things. So that's kind of how it came about. But it feels like it's just always meant to be.
Oh, wow. Some synergy going on because I was in the corporate world as well. I was in banking for sort of 15 years. So I didn't get to travel the world with that, but I am quite well traveled because I love my holidays, and I lived in Australia. I met my husband there, but yeah, started in the corporate banking world, ended up with no job and started up 2 businesses in the same day with no job or no money behind me. But I've only been in the pet industry for 7 years myself. So I feel fairly new to some of the other giants that we kind of, we share circles with. So yeah, that's quite a nice sort of synergy there with us. So we're both fairly new into it all and come from a corporate background, and we just knew we had to get out, because back then I'd say that the bank, like I used to, it was Barclays, and I had blue running through my veins, I'd say, and I didn't ever see myself out of that career because I joined from school as well. And I never back then did I think I'd end up working with dogs, and here we are. And I started off with solo dog walks for the more sensitive dogs as well. Yeah, so I love that. Brilliant.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Um, Brilliant. So your book, Stop Walking Your Dog, has such a bold title. Now I kind of understand where that's come from now. But what's the core message behind it, and why did you write it?
yeah. I love writing, and I knew I wanted to write a dog training book at some point, but there's quite a lot of dog training books. How many do we have on our bookshelves? We were talking about it a
We were
moment ago
just
that
saying, yeah,
we haven't even read them all yet. There's plenty of dog training books out there.
there are.
But there was always this thought, this hope in the back of my brain that I would write a book about dog training at some point. In
Amazing.
lockdown, I started working online, like a lot of us, and I had a number of clients that their dogs were really struggling on walks. They were really struggling on walks. They were noise sensitive, worried about dogs, worried about people. Most of their walks were quite a stressful event for the dog and their human. And repeatedly putting a dog in a situation that they don't have the skills to cope, like, it doesn't help them. It's just adding to their stresses constantly. It's just constantly reinforcing the fact that, yes, I'm right, this is a scary world. And it was the second time I said on one of these sessions, you need to stop walking your dog. And then I was just like, ooh, I wrote that down. And I thought that is the title of the book and that is the topic. And
Great.
again, another beautiful light bulb, happy accident. I started writing. 9 months later, it was published. It was there, and it was in. I mean, I'm not saying it was easy. It was a lot of hard work, but it was in me. So it was just about having the hook. And my corporate life, I was in sales and marketing, so I guess there's an element of me that kind of goes, I get the need to sell the sizzle on the sausage. I hate that phrase terribly, but you need something that grabs people.
You do. And it's certainly very eye-catching and grabbing the attention.
Yeah. So it was definitely, it's a title that really grabs people, but it also challenges people. And I quite like that.
Got
So
my copy here. My side copy must
obviously,
add.
And so there was
you.
the nervous and the anxious clients that I was working with, and there was also my own dog Bodhi. So Bodhi is a Battersea rescue boy, and he came to us when he was 8 months old. He's a collie lurcher. He'd been in and out of Battersea twice by the age of 8 months for nothing more than over exuberance and, with hindsight, actually quite a lot of worry. Again, quite a sensitive dog.
People just don't understand, do they?
Yeah, it came out as this dog that looked really overexcited, really over-friendly, wanting to be really boisterous. And it was a turning point for us, my boyfriend and I, when we were walking him twice a day, and I was learning to be a dog trainer, and I was thinking, oh dear Lord, if I can't help him, how can I help my clients? I felt like I was doing a really bad job with him, and there was plenty of tears around, struggling with a young adolescent dog that went from 22 kilos to 34 kilos, fully grown, big enough. Wow. It was a challenge. And we decided to ditch the evening walk. And that changed everything. Like, in the evenings, late afternoons, like witching hour wasn't witching hour. It was like witching 4 hours. It was a shocker. Oh, wow. As soon as we ditched the second walk in the day, everything changed. And less than the time that we spent with that second walk, we started doing small bursts of little brain games, enrichment games, like all of the kind of stuff that I talk about. That was a turning point. And even to this day, most of the time, and he's 6 now, most of the time he only gets one walk. And sometimes he might not even get a walk. He'll get a duvet day and we'll do other stuff. And it was a turning point for him. So it was another sort of example of the fact that this isn't a message just for the dogs that are a bit nervous out there. Bodhi looks like the most ridiculously friendly dog ever, but he finds the world a bit overwhelming. And then doesn't know what to do with himself. So for him, it worked really, really well to not be in this, I must walk my dog 2 to 3 times a day. So
I think we're conditioned. I've said this before, as Brits, as humans, like, we're conditioned that I must walk my dog twice a day for an hour a day. But in some instances, with certain dogs, that could be worse for them, and you don't need it. Do the brain games, the sniffy stuff, the enrichment, the mental stimulation instead.
And then you can add into that, like, sometimes, like, lockdown. We were only supposed to go out once a day. So, like, restrictions like that, it might be that the dog is, this might not just be behavioral stuff. It can be physical stuff. There might be some kind of injury they're recuperating from, or some illness,
Exactly.
either for the dog
Yeah.
or the human. It might be horrible weather, too cold, too wet, too hot. It might be pre-vaccination puppies. It might be aging dogs that can't walk as far as they used to, but they still have mental and physical needs. It
Yeah.
might be a bitching season that you don't want to have out in the middle of the park and, have an untoward coupling happen. So there's, it's not just behavioural stuff.
Exactly.
If your dog is used to having things mixed up a little bit, doing things differently, then if you need to change that routine, like say your dog walks are amazing. Like no one should stop doing them. But
Mm.
sometimes it's good to have other things in your toolkit for when you need
Definitely.
it, So
Yes,
yeah.
definitely. Love that. Absolutely love that. And we were just saying before we came on about we've got all these different books, but I like to support other dog trainers as well when they have a book. So I like to get the book but I definitely will be making a conscious effort to read this one because as well, it's a manageable size as well.
Mm.
And I like that. So yeah, I'm really excited to
It's
read
an
it.
easy read. It's
Yeah,
not it's not a dog trainer behavior book. It's for
yeah,
someone that's only just got a dog, they should be able to read it and go, "Oh, I
yeah.
can do this. I can
And
do
relate
this.
to
It's
that.
fine."
Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love
Mm.
that. Thank you so much for telling us more about the story behind your book. So we're going to be moving on to our next section now, which we've touched on a little bit, but just the myth of myth, the myth. I can't get my words out. Here we go.
Myths.
The myths of daily dog walks. That's a mouthful. So, why walking isn't always the best? So, many people, like we said, assume that daily walks are essential for all dogs. But why do you think is the time to change this narrative now?
Yeah, I think that that's that social norm, that pressure on us. Like I think so many people think, well, I have a dog. I need
I
to walk
must. That's what I
my
said. We're
dog.
conditioned, aren't
Like,
we?
we
We
can't
must.
help. I was listening to your episode with Vicky Main, and I thought that was brilliant. At the start, she was saying how that with Sam, she said it felt completely counterintuitive to stop walking him. And it does. Like it feels
Yeah.
wrong because it is just part of our psyche of having a dog. And even, when I talk to people that they're generally pretty connected with their dogs and their gut is telling them one thing, that there's something in this is not working, it's not
Mm.
right for them, but there's still, it might be partners, family, friends, they're often getting those sort of differences of opinion and
Yeah, and
helpful
that's
advice, and it might
everyone
create
thinks they're an expert.
conflict, all that well-meaning advice of, oh, just keep doing it and they'll get better with it, or people can get criticized for not taking their dogs out, even though
Yeah,
they know it's really hard and it's really stressful. And
yeah,
yeah, I think the social pressure is there, but it's going to take us talking like we are about these topics
exactly.
to help the people that most of the people that have a dog that struggles on a walk, their gut is telling them this isn't the way to go. And
Mm,
I think it's giving them the feeling of permission
yeah,
that they can act on those feelings.
that's it.
I think
Yeah.
that's a big thing. And, you know, yeah, I think that's what I'll say.
No, no, that's great. I mean, I was chatting to Sue Williamson the other day, consent-based groomer. So
Mm.
another little reveal for our listeners: the episode is coming soon. But she works with sort of anxious and nervous dogs, and she said she had an owner that basically was like, "Oh, I'll let it have a run around for 2 hours before it comes to you." And she was like, "No, do not let it run around because that's just going to make him worse, getting more het up. The bucket's becoming more full. That just do some sniffy work with him and." Brain games instead, and that'll just help promote the calmness. But yeah, that's what it's just, we're just wired to think, oh, that's okay, we'll get him walking, that'll burn off his energy and stuff. But that's, we don't know what we don't know, and it's good that
Yeah,
we're having these conversations to just,
yeah.
I'm really big on education, the pet parents. So the more we can get these conversations out there, the better. What are some of the signs that a dog might actually benefit from fewer walks?
Um, I think if when you're out on a walk, they're not able to eat the food that they normally would indoors, that's a
Mm.
big flag for me. It may
Yeah.
be they're too excited, it may be they're too stressed, if they're in that fight or flight state, even if they don't look like they're trying to fight or flee, if their stomach is shut down, that is
Yeah.
saying they're not in a good headspace, they're not able to learn, they're probably not able to process. It's just a very reactive state to be in. So,
Yeah.
not being able to take food, I think, is big. Also, not being able to drink.
Oh, okay.
Some
Yeah, I've
places
never
I've
thought of
been
that one
in,
before.
like, for instance, I've been at dog shows and we do the yellow space zones with my anxious dog, with Sarah.
Mm.
And that's a massive thing because the dogs out on the show, when they come in and they get a bit of time out in a yellow space zone, which is sort of like a decompression thing away from walking in a busy
Love that
space,
idea.
the dogs can suddenly have a drink. And
Yeah.
the guardians go, we offered them water up until now and they couldn't drink. And it's because they're
No.
so little things like that. If you carry water with you and you offer it to your dog, if they can't drink, is it because they're not thirsty or is it because they're a bit too stressed to be able
Well,
to drink?
yeah. I never even
Um,
thought about water. I thought about
yeah,
food, but never water.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
water is
that's so
one. It
interesting.
could just be increased panting or something like that, and thinking, is it because it's a bit warmer? Is it because they've been running around? Or is it just because their status, got heightened?
Yeah.
And I think it's just, observe your dog, get to know your dog. But those are probably,
Mm.
or if there's little tricks that they know, if they love a little hand touch game or they love putting their paws up on something, if you're in a situation where you invite them to do it and they can't do it, but normally they love it, again, that gives you really useful information. Like
Yeah, sure.
I used to use that as a sort of a like a check-in with Bodhi as to whether I would think, am I going to let him off lead or not? Because we spent a
Mm.
long time using a long line with him, and
Yeah.
that little, like, is your brain with me or are you completely, has
Yeah,
the
you're
brain
gone.
left the building? So,
Yeah.
get to know what your dog could normally do and,
Mm.
yeah, test that. Yeah.
Just read the signs. Yeah, like you say, just really get to know and understand your dog. I love the name Bodhi, by the way. Absolutely
Yeah,
love that name.
Ash and I are old enough to know Bodie and Doyle
Right, okay, yeah, no worries.
from The Professional.
I only know Bodhi off a TV program, but I'm sorry, yeah,
Point
that
Break. Well, yeah, Point Break as well, the film. Slightly different spelling of that one. Yeah.
Right, lovely name though. Right. So, what would your response to people who say, "But dogs need exercise, don't they?"
Yeah, you can get physical exercise and mental enrichment, and I think, and stimulation. I think we need to put all of those things together. Like, you can get those in so many different ways. And
Yes.
we all see people that maybe they've taken their dog to the park and they've got their dreaded ball chucker, their ball flinger, and the dog's barking at them as soon as they're in the park and they're off the lead, and then they fling the ball and they run for the ball and they come back and they bark, 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 fling the ball. Okay, so that dog is getting exercise, aside from the argument about what it might be doing from a repetitive strain injury or other things that could be going
Yeah,
on. Yes, it's running its little legs off or its long legs off, but I think you can get a very fit dog, but not one that is enriched in a physical, mental
yeah,
way. So,
yeah.
it's there are so many ways that you can give your dog exercise, and faster, longer, harder is definitely not better. There's some
Mm,
incredibly simple ways of dogs getting great exercise without even going outside.
yeah.
There are, and sniffing is exhausting. Absolutely. If you look at how many times a dog breathes in and out when they're truly sniffing something, like if you actually try it yourself to breathe at the speed that they breathe at, like, you'll pass out within about 15
It's
seconds. Like,
insane.
it's exhausting, and their brain is processing all that incredible
Yeah,
information. So getting away from this, my dog needs to do X amount of hours, X amount of miles. They need, yes, that we want them to run and move freely, but there's different ways of doing things
Yeah.
that can help them live a
Yeah.
very full and rich and longer life,
Yes.
perhaps, than just exercise. It's all about exercise. Frog march.
Very regimental. And I think again it just comes back to education, because like with the ball throw, like again we don't know, like they don't, the pet owner doesn't necessarily know that could cause, like, be causing problems with, like, with their joints and stuff. And if it's like, for 5 or 10 minutes that might be okay, but not like repetitively, like for an hour or so. And obviously they don't necessarily always know, and this is why it's good to sort of talk about, is that just doing 20 minutes brain sniffy work is just the same as a 60-minute outdoor walk in terms of the brain and mental stimulation they're getting.
Mm,
So if we can just get that message out there more and just educate more, that's important, isn't it?
mm.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that. So we're going to be moving on to our next section, which is alternative ways to meet a dog's needs. So if a dog doesn't go for a walk, what are some alternative ways to give them the exercise and enrichment they would need?
Oh, there's so many.
Loads.
There's so many things.
Yeah, we have to
You know,
keep it low.
I'm going to start off with ACE free work because it
Yes,
is just phenomenal.
it
Like how
is.
to exercise your dog without them running at all. It's mind blowing. So,
Yeah,
obviously, founded by the wonderful Sarah Fisher, you
yeah,
can engage their senses. You can get them sniffing, licking, chewing, foraging in a way that they find beautifully tiring, but it calms their mind. It can really help them to release body tension. So, it can help that physical and emotional stress that they might be feeling. And they can just enjoy some incredible connections with their human. So it's
yeah,
really building the bond, and it's all done in a stress-free environment. Now you can do ACE-free work out and about, but the best place is to start at home or in your
yeah,
garden. If you've got the smallest outside space, you don't need to buy a load of equipment. You can just buy, you'll find stuff around your house, plant pots, yoga mats, all sorts of things. Like
that's
you can
it.
do all sorts of things. So ACE-free work is just wonderful for exercise and enrichment, and the dogs inherently know how to move their bodies in the way that benefits them. If we are not flinging balls and food and do this and do that and do, like we can, I'm a trainer and I can get very trainery, but if I take my trainer hat off and set up some stations for Bodhi to just be a dog, he knows how
Yeah,
to be a dog and he's really good at it if I let him. So I think
yeah,
that is probably one for people to go and have a
yeah,
Google ACE free work, and
yeah.
your dog will thank you for it.
Yeah, we've got
Yeah,
Sarah coming on soon. Sorry, yeah, Sarah's coming on soon. Just she's a very busy lady and popular lady. I'm just trying to book in a date, but she has agreed to coming on to the
amazing.
Yappy Hour. And then Sue Williamson was obviously talking about ACE free because it helps with the agreement and environment. So just for our listeners, ACE is animal centered education. I actually got a book of Sarah's the other day, so another one to sort of read up on as well. So, but yeah, hopefully we'll get her on soon. So yeah, Ace Free. What else is
Incredible.
in your
Scent
toolbox?
work.
Yeah,
Scent work, whether it is going off and doing it with someone, with an organization or one-to-one, but like every dog can do scent work. You can do scent work around the home. You can hide some treats and toys and blah, blah, blah. So scent work is the easiest way to get your dog moving nicely and, using their nose, using their brain, having a fun time with you. So easy to do
yeah,
at home. Man trailing, pet trailing, hoopers, agility, hiring private fields, going somewhere for a swim in a river or a sea that's safe. There's so many things that don't have to be a walk for exercise or the park for
that's it.
exercise, and even a
Yeah,
play date with a friend. Say they're not great with other dogs, but there is a dog that they're bonded with, or even a friend or a neighbor that has a garden. Even just
mm.
going around with your dog for your dog to experience someone else's garden
All
doesn't
the
don't,
smells.
yeah, all the different smells, and the foxes and the hedgehogs that would have been in that garden is probably different to their own garden. And you don't need to spend money on hiring a private field if you've got
Yeah,
some people that you can just call a favor in and go, can I come around and borrow your garden for half an hour? So there's
love
lots of
that.
things that you can do. This is not about spending money. There's so many things, and all of these
Mm.
things that you're doing with your dog, like you're there with them, like your relationship will only benefit from it, you know, and obviously their mental and physical well-being only stands to benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Even just with an Amazon box or parcel and all the parcel stuff, put in some treats and just get them using their nose and snuffling around for it. Yeah,
I
just
have a
stuff.
very bad habit that my boyfriend laughs at. We have a spare bedroom. There's so many boxes in there. I can't throw them away. I can't, because every time I go and see a client, I think, right, have I got a dog? Have I got a box that's big enough for a Rottweiler? Have I got one that's good enough for a miniature Dachshund? So I need them all. And he
I
just
love
laughs
that.
at me like, you've got to get rid of some. I'm like, I can't.
Wow, they're a tool. They're a tool for your business. So we all need our tools. Brilliant. So some great options there. So how does giving the dogs choices rather than forcing them into situations help build their confidence, Nikki?
Lives, they have so little choice. They have so little opportunity to make choice. And,
Mm.
you know, fundamentally, a dog wants to feel safe. Like Andy Hale's episode with you, brilliant. People need to go back and listen to that if they haven't heard of it.
Oh,
You know,
loved
they
it.
want to feel safe. They need to feel safe.
I do.
And when dogs have a choice, it's amazing what choices they can make. So if it's something that they're feeling a little bit uncertain about, if they're given the choice as to, do they get close? Do they move away? What, like, if they get to choose, we may be surprised by the choices that they make. But if we,
Mm.
you know, if there's and if I'm scared about doing something, if I'm pressured into doing it, I'm much more likely to resist. I don't want to be forced into it. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But if I'm
True.
allowed to do something in my own time and in my own way, I'll probably get there. But it's got to be in a way that's right for me. So if they feel listened to, and you know, we're not luring them and coaxing them with food to go towards something that they're worried about, if they understand that they can trust us, that we're not going to put them in that situation where they don't feel safe, they will
Mm.
grow their trust in us, and they will see us
Exactly.
as a means to be able to go, actually, no, I can rely on you. Okay, I know you're not going to put me somewhere where I'm not feeling okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite an important thing. But yeah, it's just magical when you don't put pressure on dogs to do something, and you know, that's sort of in a sort of a behavior sense, but even just giving them a little bit more agency in their own life, a little bit more choice in their own life, and I can give you some examples of that if that's useful.
Oh yeah. I mean, please do. Yeah. Let's delve into that.
Yeah, so I think, you know, when it comes to things like enrichment, something like that, it's so simple. But you know, we buy massive bags of tripe sticks and rabbit's ears and all that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of natural chews for Bodhi. It's very
And
good for him to
so
be pressed. Like, you know, it looks like a horrible animal body part in one cupboard in my kitchen. All those tripe sticks, they might be lots of different sizes and shapes. They all smell disgusting to me.
to
But
them, it's like, whoa,
why should I pick one out and give it to him?
let
Here's a
him
treat.
choose.
I'm giving you this one. And that's a beautiful thing for me to do. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But there's nothing wrong with me getting out 3 or 5 of them and popping them down on the floor and saying, you
Love
pick.
that.
And he'll go along one by one, sniffing them all. And then he'll go back and then he'll pick up that one. I've no idea why. And then he'll run off, pleased as punch. And it's a different kind of happy trot when he's
Love that.
chosen which one he wants, rather than me just going, here's a really nice chew for you, which is beautiful. Like, don't get me
Mm.
wrong, but how easy was it for me to just pull out a few and say, "Oh, you can pick one"? And you know, not many dogs will run along and try and pick them all up and run off with all of them. Maybe, you know, or
Mm.
if you put down some kind of something for licking, you know, different licky mat textures or things
Yes.
like that. You know, we give them something on a lick mat. Here you go. But what if you
Mm.
had a couple of different textures? It might be something smooth. It might be one of the slightly more textured bobbly lick mats. Maybe you've got the
Mm.
same thing on both. This is kind of ACE free work principles of giving them some kind of choice. You can pop both down. Maybe one's at a
Yeah.
slightly different height to the other one, or maybe one's at a slightly angle to flat, and see which do they
Yeah.
seem to prefer, or do they just like both of them? Like, and it just
Yeah.
gives you information, and they get to choose and they get to express themselves. So
Love that.
So I think there's huge power in little choices, because they don't, we say we're getting up now. We say we're going for a walk now. Yes, you can go in the garden. No, you come in from the garden. Yes, you will put this on. Like, they don't have a lot of choice in their lives. And they're
No.
very
Oh,
intelligent beings not
they
to
are.
have many choices in life.
Definitely. So it's all about choice and consent, which I love. So I think we might have sort of touched on our next question, just some simple enrichment ideas that owners can try right away. Obviously, the one with the Amazon box and the
Yeah.
parcel, and have you got any other sort of quick
Yeah.
enrich like?
Yeah, a low-sided cardboard box. I was always say to people, like, start simple. You don't want a
Yes.
box where there's flaps that might worry them, or they might crash
Oh, of
into, or
course.
cut the sides down, make it really easy for them to just poke their nose into if they want to, and always have food around the outside. So if they don't want
Mm,
to put their head into the box, they don't have to. They can still get food that might be just somewhere near the box. I'm
mm.
all about recycling. So cardboard, any recycling you can use in so many different ways. Even
Yeah.
just like, the dog towels. We all have umpteen dog towels, just scattering some
Yeah.
food in a towel, scrunching it up, rolling it up. You could
Yeah.
do lots of different things. Just keep it fun. This is not meant to be an ordeal in order to have some
Yeah.
food. This is meant to just kind of engage that seeking system, get them snuffling,
Yes.
is their tail wagging? Do they look happy with the experience, or are they just ragging it around because they're a bit annoyed and they just want to have dinner? So, read your dog. Things to sniff. Like, when I come in from, I don't know, food shopping, or coming in from seeing clients, like, Bodhi wants to sniff me up and down my bags. I'll put my rucksack down, and in effect, I'm just there as a sniffing object for him. I'm a little
Yeah.
piece of enrichment, and I just sit there,
His
or I stand
shoes.
there and let him give me a good old sniff until he's done. Like, that's enrichment. Like, it doesn't. I
Yeah.
think we have to think it's all food related.
Doesn't have to be.
Um, some dogs that, perhaps they can't go on as many walks, bringing outside smells in. So it might be you bring some
Mm.
grass clippings from somebody else, or you bring in a
Yes.
little bit of a branch or something like that. Or I know one person, their dog was not mobile at all, but very scent driven, and she used to get some little cloths in Ziploc bags, and she'd rub the cloths on little
Yeah.
points along the walk and put them into the Ziploc bag and take them back. And then
Oh,
she could
wow.
lay out like a sensory experience in the space that the
Love
dog was
that.
comfortable exploring. So, the
Yeah.
little pee posts, the pee mail would come in for this dog to experience. So it's not all about food. So if people say, oh, my dog's not foodie and all that kind of stuff, like, it can be other things. If anybody gets raw food, or gets any other kind of anything that comes in that needs to be kept chilled, you've got that natural sheep's wool packaging. So unbleached
Yes.
sheep's wool. It's smelly-ish, but it's not horrendous. Things like that can be amazing.
Yeah.
Just to get them sniffing and enjoying. Well, digging. I mean, Bodhi used to be a massive digger when we first got him. Our garden was just carnage, but we taught him to dig in our compost heap. So we turns that over, and we also built a digging pit that's got play sand in it.
Mm.
So, digging is an enrichment, and rather than us thinking, oh, how can I stop my dog digging, give them a space to dig. Like, they're dogs. A lot of dogs want to dig, and it's great exercise,
Yeah.
and they enjoy it. So there's lots of different ways you can give them.
I saw someone had brought in some leaves, just some
Yeah,
crackly, just the leaves, so they're just like they're all crispy. That's the word I was going for.
yeah,
Brought in some of the outside inside, just brought in some leaves, and the dog was having a whale of a time.
yeah.
And I liked what you said about letting him choose his tripe stick. So when when I was teaching in person puppy classes, obviously we'd encourage the pet parent to identify a high value treat or reward, something different from like their normal boring treats or their food. And a lot of them did struggle to like, oh, okay. But I used to like telling them to do the taste test. So I was like, put some cheese under one and put some chicken or something else, bit of steak under another cup, but let them go along to the different cups that are covered over and let them pick the high value treats. So rather than you tell them, here's your
Mm.
a high value reward, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good. So let the dog choose their treat and their high value reward. I used to
Yeah, I
love
love
saying that.
that. I love that. And what they pick one time might not
It
be the
might be
same thing that they
different.
pick another. Like,
And
we
I
like
said,
this.
"Oh, they might." I said they might pick two things and that's fine, or yeah, and that's okay. Like let them choose. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to the emotional impact on our pet parents, our guardians. So many pet parents, Niki, feel guilty if they don't take their dog for a walk every day. How can we shift that way of thinking?
Yeah, it's a massive one for people, I think. Trying to find something fun at home that you can do
Mm,
so that your dog is having a fun time with you. You know, it might just be hiding a toy around the place or learning a new trick or hiding some treats around or something like that. So trying to do something where you can see they are quite clearly having fun with you.
yeah,
I think that can be a positive reinforcer for yourself. I think connecting with people that share a similar mindset, this might be online. There's people in my membership, like they do not think two walks a day is the norm. Like there are spaces,
mm,
there are people like you need to find those people, because you are going to face people in your daily life. You may be living
that's
with
it.
them. There's often conflict, with the
Yes,
people that you're nearest and dearest. So find some people that really can become your tribe, because
love
they
that.
will help you let go of that guilt, because you'll go, oh, you've done it. Wow, I can see that's really working for you. Okay, it's not just me. I'm not failing my dog. I'm making great choices for my dog. And these are all the things that I can do instead. So I think that can be helpful. I think
Yeah,
sometimes some kind of notes or some kind of tracker, like if you have a dog that's reactive to dogs or people, if you start to keep some little notes of, or, had a big reaction on this walk, or only had a little reaction here, if you keep some kind of diary, some kind of tracker, what works for anybody, a little notepad or a spreadsheet or whatever, when you're working on these things, if you are reducing the walks, shortening the walks, whether you've stopped the walks, when you start, or when you're still doing, when say you are still doing some of the walks, if you notice, well, if you can look back over weeks and months and you can go, okay, well, this time three months ago, he was having a reaction on like 80% of his walks.
mm,
Now we might be walking, doing shorter walks, but now he's only having reactions on 50% of walks. Whereas
yeah,
if you were in that moment, you might be thinking, oh, he's still reacting on half of his walks. You have probably moved on from the fact that he was reacting on nearly all of them.
yeah,
So having
yeah.
notes to reflect
Like
back, I think
like a
can,
diary. Mm,
yeah, whatever works for people, like it can help you go, no, this is helping, and you
yeah,
need to, you need to motivate yourself to keep going, because some of these things are not quick fixes. They're
yeah.
not quick. So you need to help yourself. I'm a big fan for a wins jar. This wasn't a prop, but I have my own wins jar. It's a Vermex
Yes,
pot. Can you recognise the Vermex pot?
Vermex. Yeah,
And I write down little things that
that
my
is
dog has done.
that is
Of
brilliant. But you can do that for yourself as well.
Yeah, I do. It's like it's my own personal star chart, because I have a short term memory anyway. I have memory issues, but I've never been good at memory. Like I've never been any good in quizzes or anything.
Same.
I can get, I'll open that once a year maybe and go, oh gosh, yes, I remember. I would say to Ash, do you remember he used to do that? Oh gosh, yes. Like Bodhi's far, who wants a perfect dog? But Bodhi's far from perfect. Like he's still a handful, but we've come such a long way. But
Yeah,
I forget
you
that stuff. So
do.
helping to ditch the guilt and to feel that what you're doing is working.
Yeah,
Find something that is reinforcing what you're doing. You need to give
brilliant.
yourself some rewards as well.
I love that. And just for our listeners who may not be watching, my SA dog Bailey has joined us now. So this is why I got into dog training and became a separation anxiety behavior consultant and specialist because of my own SA dog and wanting to help owners. But he's got a hyper attachment to me. So he's just coming, he wants to just come and sit with me now. And that's okay. So he often makes an appearance on the Yappy Hour.
Oh, bless him. I'm
Right,
kind of
brilliant.
jealous like that, and because Bodhi's the opposite of that. He's very much, I want my own
Okay,
space, thank you.
bit
But
aloof. That's a bit like what.
you always wish what you didn't have, I think.
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, I've got 7 dogs, so I wouldn't be able to manage if they were all like Bailey. But luckily, he's our special sort of boy and sort of led me into the training world. So we've all got our stories, ain't we? It's funny because most people I speak to on here, it's because of their own dog that's kind of got them into, into training as well and stuff. So it just makes it more relatable. So Niki, you work with a lot of pet parents who feel isolated because their dog struggles outside. What's one thing that they can do today to help with their struggles?
I think the biggest thing is finding people like you, finding people that understand. I think that's
Yeah.
so huge. Those friends and families are not likely to be your best source of support.
Find
And
your people. I like that.
yeah, find your people, and I think that will help you feel like that there is hope. And sometimes people that I talk to, they have considered rehoming. They have thought, I'm not the right person for this dog. And so there's quite serious things at stake sometimes. So yeah, having some connections that you can make for yourself,
Yeah.
no matter where they are, there will be a way to help them move forwards towards perhaps not the dream they envisaged before they got this
Mm,
particular dog or something like that, but certainly something
yeah.
closer
It's
to
that.
it.
You're not alone. That's what people need to know. You're never alone.
And
So there's
it's so isolating when you have a
it
dog.
is.
You feel like a real social pariah, and
I did.
you know
I do still.
people feel judged. And yeah, I mean, I still experience, Bodhi can still, give it full beans. He sounds like a husky. And it's just because he's like, they haven't turned around to look at me, and he's jumping
How
up and
very
down.
dare they?
See them like, and I've got dog trainer written on my back. It's like, oh, this is good, isn't it? Yeah.
It's
But
always the way.
it's life. Like, it's life. So, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Niki, how can we create a more supportive culture for pet parents of sensitive or anxious dogs?
I think the more we can help people to feel comfortable to share their stories on social media, I think is
Mm,
so helpful. And like, as we said, I think often people feel quite alone. They feel that they're the only person, they're a bad owner and they've got a bad dog, and, their dream life with their dog hasn't turned out how they thought it would be. Sometimes they're still grieving the previous dog that was a certain way. And then there's a
mm.
a new dog that is different. Like, I hear this so often, and
They
obviously all dogs
compare
are
a lot.
different.
They compare a
Yeah,
lot, don't
and it's
they?
normal, isn't it? Like, it's completely normal to do that. If anyone feels able to, if they can share something, like share a photo, share the warts and all stuff, the bits that they feel comfortable sharing, that if people post up a photo of their dog and just go, the walk was a bit of a disaster today, and maybe this is where you've got the safe online communities. Like, I wouldn't do it in some of the local
I know.
dog walking groups, I wouldn't do it in those kind of groups, but in your safe spaces, sharing about it. And some people are wonderful about sharing on, their public social media about the absolute disasters that they've had. And I share my disasters with Bodhi,
Yeah,
because I feel like
I'm a bit of an
I should lead
oversharer.
from the front. The day that Bodhi slipped his harness and took off towards a dog reactive dog, that was not my finest
Oh,
hour.
wow.
Yeah, but I share it. I talk about it like there's a podcast episode about
It,
it. So it's like,
it
you've got
just
to talk
makes
about
you,
it.
it makes you more human and more relatable.
Yeah, and we
You
don't always get
understand
it
it.
right. I think so. Yeah, anything that people feel able to talk about and share with their struggles, I think, is good, because then other people will be like, oh, and often you can get a lot of support from people going, oh, thanks for sharing that. Something similar happened to me, and it sort of grows that. I think another brilliant thing is, I know lots of professionals share details of my book. So even if somebody doesn't buy the book, the fact that somebody can go, did you know somebody's written a book about, like, not walking as much and maybe doing
Yeah.
other things, it can
Yeah.
help that conversation of people going, what do you mean? Oh, okay, someone's
Yeah.
written it's like, there's this thing. I think it's much like expecting to walk your dog. If someone's written a book about it, it must be true. And I'm sure there's plenty of books that it's not true, but you know what I mean? So somebody's gone to the effort of put it in
No, I
print,
know what you mean.
gives it
Yeah,
some validity, and I think
it
that
does.
can help. So just telling somebody, like, I'm not walking my dog as much, and look, somebody's even written about a book, so it must be right.
Yeah.
That
Uh,
can be helpful.
yeah, and it's like when I was working like when I was doing one-to-ones in person, doing training, and you'd work with a nervous or anxious dog, and then you'd say to the pet parent, just give them a day off the next day. Don't walk the dog. And they're like, what? Not
Yeah.
walk the dog? And I'm like, no, just give them a day off. Give them a chance to decompress. Explain like the stress bucket and things like that. Just give them a chance to fully decompress and it's okay not to walk your dog 7 days a week. They're
Yeah.
allowed days off.
Yeah. And some people will say, oh, my dog will go nuts if we don't take them for a walk. And I get that. Like if they are used to going out at a certain time every day, to start off with, that will be tricky. But there are ways that you can ease in that variation.
Yeah.
The other thing in terms of like that supportive culture thing is the yellow space awareness products. Like,
Yes. Love it.
I have one that says rescue dog. I have one that says in training. Like
Oh,
Bodhi's
wow.
Bodhi's not a nervous or anxious dog, but if I'm going somewhere busier, if I've got a flash of yellow on, then that's helping to spread. And it can also just help conversations. Like you can
Yeah.
help to spread that message out there that the yellow means I might need a bit of space for whatever reason. So things like that, start helping those conversations.
Yeah.
Can be
Love that.
really helpful.
Yeah, love the yellow, raising awareness again in the education and stuff. Perfect, Nikki. So we're going to move on to our next section, which I'm really excited about because it's coming up soon, and I don't know whether to ever always say this, but I said it with Sarah, like hashtag or don't walk your dog day, but hashtag don't walk your dog day, changing the conversation. So you created the hashtag don't walk your dog day. Tell us all about it and what inspired this campaign.
Yeah. So after the book came out, I have to say I wrote it not really thinking that many people would actually buy it. I just wrote it. I
Oh,
didn't think that far ahead, but I was quite overwhelmed by the response,
oh
and
wow, love that.
I it, I quickly started getting emails from people thanking me for giving them permission to do things differently, and
Okay.
saying things like, "Oh, it's like you wrote this for me. Like you personally wrote this book for me." And I mean, what like it again, it brings me out in goosebumps now. Like how amazing to connect with somebody through a book in that way, and
Yeah.
it. I wanted to take that further, and for me, an awareness day, like it's a nationally recognized day, to at least and every day can be a don't walk your dog day, but at
Of
least once
course.
a year we can get people talking about it, and
Yeah.
get debates happening. And it became apparent that we really needed to do more to spread this word. And it's the 2nd of April, and
Yes.
it's not a random date. It was very carefully thought through. So April is Stress Awareness Month.
Oh, okay.
Yes, a human stress awareness month. And a lot of
Oh,
this is
wow.
about the human stress. I wanted it to be early on in April. I wanted it to be fairly early on in spring. I thought I would avoid April's Fool's Day. So I didn't put it on the 1st of April and the 2nd
Good.
of April. And also April is also Active Dog Month as well. So Active Dog Month, it's not all about
Okay.
not, walks, exercise. So it all kind of like came together. But yeah, the 2nd of April was the first day in April other than April Fool's Day. So that's how it came to be that day.
How many years are we into it now, Nikki?
This is year 4, coming up to year
Oh,
4.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Sarah, like from My Anxious Dog, obviously, because she's got her yellow day coming up in March.
Yeah.
And she was saying, like, you have to apply for it somewhere. And like you said,
Mm.
yours is a national thing. And I was like, what? I had no idea. But yeah, you have to apply for it all. It has to be approved.
Yeah. I mean, you can make up your own day and just share it.
Right.
And that's why
Right.
there is thousands and
Yes.
thousands and thousands of them.
Yes.
So you can make your I like fried eggs day, and you can do it on a given day, and you can share about it, and you might get people post, like you can do that. It doesn't need to be official. But
Right.
if you want it to go on to the calendars, I think one is the year ahead. You can go on and you can look at April, and you'll see what days there are. And some are fun, some are very heavyweight, and there's lots in
Mm.
between. But you have to put in a proper reason and application as to why this day is important. So
Oh,
yeah, you do have to be quite persuasive in
Oh,
in
okay.
in the thing. So it has got kudos for it to be an official day rather than just one that you just used yourself, which is also
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know, I love it. So what has the response been from pet parents and guardians?
It's been mixed, as you might
Oh,
expect. It was so funny. The first year I did an interview with the Mirror online,
oh,
and
okay.
it got it was a beautifully written article, really true to the essence of the day. Like, this is not some crazy dog trainer saying no one should walk their dog ever. Their headline is obviously going to be red top clickbaity, which I have no problem
Yeah.
with. I mean, my own book is kind of capitalizing on that. The Mirror headline was about, dog trainer shares why you should not walk your dog every day, despite popular belief, something like that. But the article itself was very accurate. Of course, there's lots of people that scroll online, see a headline, never read the article. So there,
Oh, God.
there was something like 90 comments had been posted underneath the original article. 60% were, um, who the hell does she think she is? The one that cracked me up the most, I got called a snowflake. Like, when
Oh,
this came out,
great.
I
Okay.
was probably 51, I think, when this came out. I was like, yes, I'll take that. But there was just lots of people saying, oh, who's she? She's cruel and all the rest of it. And they just hadn't read. They just hadn't read the article. So I
Oh,
didn't find that
no.
at all. So it was mixed. But then that is a true representation of what people think dogs need, and what's right and all the rest of it. So from that, because there was so many comments on this original article, it got picked up. Over the next 2 weeks, it went nuts. It went
Oh,
absolutely nuts.
okay.
It ended up in Australia and India, and I had a
No
call from
way.
an Australian radio channel and a Hungarian TV news channel. Like, it was on the top of, it went into the Lad Bible highlights. It went into MSN and Apple News in their top 4. I've got all these screenshots. Like, it was like the
Yeah, I'm not
coverage was
surprised.
insane.
That's
um,
amazing.
so yeah, from an awareness point of view, wonderful. The headlines got increasingly worse. I mean, how I didn't get more abuse, I don't know.
But
Um,
people have got an opinion on everything, haven't they? So
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it did a lot to raise awareness. So it served its purpose, shall we say, in terms of getting people talking about it. So yeah.
sounds like it. Brilliant. So how can our listeners get involved and help spread the message?
Yeah, so I mean, people, 2nd of April, I mean, if people want to do anything in advance, if there's any dog trainers or anything, if they have, a blog or something like that, if they want to write about it, by all means, get in touch with me. If I can supply you with anything, any graphics or anything like that, I can do that. But as
Oh,
much as
okay.
anything, on the day, people can just share a photo of their dog or a video of them doing something. And I think that
Yeah.
the nicest thing is sharing all the things that you might do, or something that you do that
Mm.
isn't a dog walk. So on Don't Walk Your Dog Day, Bodhi doesn't go for a walk. So we think we walk the talk, and
Got to practice what we preach.
it is the most tiring day of Bodhi's life. I remember the first year I did it, I think I went out a bit too hard and fast. By 2 o'clock, he went to bed and wouldn't get up. I'd planned various other little things here and there, and I think I gave him a bone at 1 o'clock. And then he tapped out. He was like, "That's it, I'm done." It was the hardest day he'd had in his life. So
Oh,
yeah,
bless
getting
his
people to share all
heart.
the things that your dog can do, that isn't just a boring old walk. Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely love that. Wow, this has been a jam-packed episode. We've covered so much and the time is just sailed through. So we're going to spend the last sort of 5 or so 7 minutes just sort of wrapping up with some final points and questions, if that's okay, Niki. I've absolutely loved learning more about you and your story. It's been great. Niki, if there's one thing you wish all dog parents, pet parents, guardians knew, what would it be?
I think our dogs are telling us so much about what they need,
Mm,
and they can probably teach us everything we need to do to support them.
mm,
But we probably need help in tapping into that and learning how to observe that. And the more that we look at them, the more we really watch them, and start to learn our own dog's body language. They're all unique, and I think it's quite difficult to know canine body language with every breed type and every type of tail and head and like that's hard. But like just become an expert in your own dog or your dogs. And when you see, okay, well, when we started approach, the dog was at this distance, and his ears just did this, or his tail did that, or all those subtle little things. And it is quite subtle. I mean, I still find it really hard to, it's like trying to, I can't learn any languages, let alone something like Chinese, but like I wouldn't know where to start. So it's something to learn. But then I think also, even if you don't know anything for it, it probably will be right. So listen to your dog and let your gut listen to your dog, and act on it. I think is probably the big thing.
Brilliant. Big on sort of like you say, observing the body language and stuff, and taking that into account. So, for any pet parent or guardian who's nervous about skipping walks, what's a simple first step that they can take?
Yeah. So I think coming back to what we said a second ago about, if your dog is used to being walked at X times a day at X time, it can be very hard for them to just go, well, what do you mean we're not going out? So I would say that if you're in that situation, you're thinking, well, I don't know how to build into having something like a duvet day or doing something else. If you can play a quick calming game before you go out, and then maybe you shorten up the walk a little bit, and then maybe you play a little calming game, a brain game, a scent game or something when you come back. The whole experience is probably, say you were going for an hour walk, you're probably, going to do well to have, 5 minutes max of games, maybe a 30-minute walk and 5 minutes of game. So the time you do it, this doesn't need to take more time. Just a little bit of thought, a little bit of an intention. If you do some calming game, a little hand touch, or whatever with your dog, get their brain with you, get that connection with you, then go out and have a shorter walk, and then come back and do something again, which is helping to bring their arousal down a little bit. It might help them relax and settle more easily when they get home, and then you can play around with that. Then you might try and just do a little bit more games and a little bit less walk, or one day you might go crazy and go, do you know what, we're just going to do some games and see how you get on. You can always go out a little bit later, maybe just try it. And think, this
live on the edge.
This is not about depriving your dog of anything. You're learning about what your dog loves, and you're finding ways to do more of that. So, if people don't know a game to play or how to play it and things like that, reach out to me, or your dog trainer or your behaviorist. There's lots of things, and we can help you with some games that will be right for your dog and what their drivers are.
Yeah, just enrich. You're just enriching their life more, I feel. So, and it's good to have a bit of variety. I'm big on varieties as spice of life. Niki, where can our listeners learn more about you, your work, your book, upcoming projects? What's next?
Yeah, so my website is probably the easiest place, puptalk.co.uk, super easy. On Facebook, I'm Pup Talk. Everywhere else, I'm Pup Talk 101, because Pup Talk had gone. And then from there, I mean, for instance, on the website, there's a page on the Awareness Day, so you can, get on the email list and I can send updates out for that kind of thing.
Brilliant.
The Pup Talk, the podcast, is on a break at the moment. I got to 100. Well done, you. I got to 150 episodes and I was ready to fall over. So I'm on a pause.
That's okay. We need a break.
I'm sure it will come back. But there's still 150 episodes that are out there that you can find through the website. And then I am busy writing the follow-up to Stop Walking the Dog. It should be published by the end of this year if I keep going. It's felt hard a second time around.
Follow up. That's exciting. Have you got names or anything? Can you give us any?
I won't reveal that yet. I won't reveal that, but I can say that it's about, if you have stopped walking your dog, what do you do next?
Yeah.
then and it's kind of it's what I do a lot with people one-to-one. So if you've stopped or reduced your walks and you're starting to help them grow skills at home, how do you then start to open up their world again? And I'm trying to really get into the nuances of kind of how I do with my one-to-one clients, trying to give people lots of ideas and variations as to how they can expand it out. But it's proving quite a quite a big meaty thing to get into to make it digestible.
How
Yeah.
exciting you're doing your follow-up. So,
Mm.
Niki, that's brilliant. Remind us of the day that it's your awareness day again.
Yeah, so
Remind us the
hashtag
date.
Don't Walk Your Dog Day. So it's all in one. Don't Walk Your Dog Day is the 2nd of April.
Yeah, and you're at puptalk.co.uk.
.uk. Yeah.
Perfect. Niki, thank you so, so much for joining me on the Yappy Hour today, powered by Yappily. What a jam-packed episode. I've absolutely loved it, and I know our listeners are going to get so much from this episode. I really appreciate your time today, and we'll have to get you back in the future for when, when this new book's out, and we'll get you back on because there's so much more I'm sure we can talk about.
That would be amazing. Anytime.
Thank you so much, Niki.
Thank you.
What a fantastic conversation with Niki French. Here are some key takeaways from today's episode. Number 1. Not all dogs benefit from daily walks. If a dog struggles outside, skipping walks can actually reduce stress and improve well-being. Number 2. There are many ways to meet a dog's needs beyond walking. Enrichment activities like scent work, interactive play, and free work can be even more fulfilling. Number 3. Pet parents shouldn't feel guilty about making the best choice for their dog. Every dog is different, and it's okay to step away from the traditional must walk daily mindset. Number 4. Hashtag Don't Walk Your Dog Day is helping pet parents feel empowered. By sharing experiences and alternatives, this campaign is changing the conversation around walks. Niki, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and for challenging outdated thinking about dog care. And to all our listeners, if you want to learn more, be sure to check out Niki's book, Stop Walking Your Dog, and join the Pup Talk community. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, share it with a fellow dog parent, and subscribe so you never miss an episode of the Yappy Hour. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.